It's telling me that nobody's in the other link that we sent out by mistake. So I think you're ready to get started, Jane.
Alrighty. Get rid of my floating window here. We're up to 139, so that's almost everybody. Good. So hi, everybody. It's wonderful to see as many of you as I can see, and I will periodically scroll back through the video images so I can see some of the rest of you. This is a collaboration class that, my name is Jane Abbott. I teach communication and collaboration at MIT for about the last 16 years. And prior to that, I spent about 15 years teaching teamwork in industry. So I've got a lot of years of working with teams and trying to understand what makes some teams really click and sparkle and produce great work while other teams struggle. And I've learned a lot over the years. And what I will do in the next hour and maybe a little bit more is condense it down and try to give you the nuggets of the couple of key things that I've observed make, and that research has come behind me and shown, make the most difference when you're working with a team to try to work well together. There's a lot to say. I could talk for days, and I won't, of course. I'll talk for about an hour. You'll talk for part of the hour. So there's a lot to say, but I've crammed a lot into the slides. We'll send you out the slides when we're done, and hope that those of you who are interested in what it takes to make a team work can use the slides and the attached resources to explore some more. The way you get good at working on a team is to explore and practice and create and invent and fail and pick yourself up and experiment some more. So my hope is to leave you at the end of this hour with a lot to think about, some things to practice, and maybe some new connections made with some of your classmates. So let's get on with it. Here's a question for you. How many of you love working on teams? Just show of hands. How many of you love working on teams? I see quite a few of you. Good. And how many of you would rather eat worms than work on a team? You just hate teamwork. Please let me do it myself. Any I'd like to do it myself people out there? Oh, I only see a couple of you. And well, good. So, and how many of you are somewhere in between? You're sort of in between. I don't love teams. I put up with them, or they're okay. Kind of in between. Some of you like that? A few of you like that. Good. All right. So however you are about being on a team, it's my hope that you'll learn some things here that'll make it easier for you to feel comfortable on teams and effective on teams as we go along. How many of you are excited about being here and about being in this program? Show of hands. Many hands, many hands. Good. How many of you are nervous about being in this program? Many hands. Good. I see many hands, excited and nervous. Here's a fun fact. Did you know that excitement and nervousness are physiologically the same thing? It's just kind of useful to know that. If we wired you up and made you nervous and then made you excited, there would be no difference in any output, any physical output. They're identical. So what makes the difference between excitement and nervousness is the context. I'd have to ask you, are you excited or nervous? What are you excited or nervous about? And many of us are excited or nervous when we're starting out with something, as we are here. So as we go, I'm going to put you in breakout rooms a couple of times so that you can talk things through with each other and get to know each other a little better. I'm also going to ask you to respond to some things in the chat window. And we will share the chat notes. So make sure you don't respond with anything you want to keep private. Just if you want to share things, make sure it's okay that it's stuff you want to share. Maybe not with everybody, but that you're all right with other people knowing it. Just as a warning when we go. So I'm going to start by talking a little bit about communication generally. And I'll do that for a few minutes, and then we're going to do an exercise, and then you're going to work in breakout rooms. I will not talk you into the ground, I hope. So here's an example of some theory about communication. Here's me, okay, and I'm this person over here with these characteristics that are my characteristics. And then here's you over here, and you're similar to me in quite a number of ways. You have arms and legs and eyes and nose and mouth, right? So we're two people together. We're trying to work together. But here's me that you can't see. So here's how I think about things, right? And here's how I feel about things. And here's the way I get maybe when I'm put on the spot. That's a way of looking at the aspects of me that you can't see, right? And now here's you over here. Move this out of the way so you can see, well, we're a little bit alike inside, but we're not exactly alike inside. And then here's some more of you on the inside. And oh, you've got these little blue stars over here. I don't have any of those. I wonder what that means. And here we are, we're being asked to work together. So we have certain things in common and certain ways in which we're very, very different. Certain things that are exposed and visible, certain other things that we have to find out about each other. So how do you ever communicate? How do you ever sort out communication in a way that makes it effective? I went to graduate school to find the answer to that question. And what I learned is that oftentimes we don't understand each other, or we think we understand each other, but we maybe only partly understand each other. And that really communicating, and the kind of communication that helps us be effective, takes time, and it takes attention, and it takes patience. It's hard work and it's intentional work. You have to focus some time on communication in order to get better at it. And that's not something that we're accustomed to doing, so it can feel a little bit awkward. But the reason it's worth doing is that you guys as a group, I know this about you, you're all gifted with technology and you're all gifted with math and science, and I'm sure most of you are gifted with many other things as well. And whatever you go ahead to do in the future is going to call on those gifts and call on your talents, and almost anything that any of you is going to go do in the future is going to require you're working with other people and you're working on teams. So that's why we spend a little bit of time getting you to focus on teamwork and communication explicitly, so that you start to have the kinds of conversations that will help you when you get into your teamwork and you have tasks to perform. There's a man at MIT named Ian Waits. He used to be the head of the School of Engineering. He's now, I think he's in the chancellor's office now. He's some very high level important job. He's a wonderful human being. And he was once asked in an interview what he learned after many, many years of very high performing teams. What did he learn about the important components of working well as a team? And he said there were 3 essential things. So here they come. This is from Ian Waits. He said the first thing is listening deeply to others in order to fully understand them. Not just to understand what's said, but to understand what's really meant and to understand who the person is who's doing the speaking. Second, building mutuality, the sense that we're all in this together. We're independent people and we're all in this together, and we need to use communication to get ourselves linked up so that we can take our projects forward and take our lives forward in the way that we want. Thirdly, appreciating the opportunities created by working with a variety of people. So working with a variety of people takes work because it means we have to sort out our differences, but it also gives us huge opportunities in creativity and richness of the work that we do. So there's some words of wisdom from Ian Waits. And you'll notice that what ties them all together is they're all about relationship. They're about building and sustaining relationships with the people you work with. So here you are in a class with 100 and many other students with similar interests and similar backgrounds in many ways. And my challenge to you, one of my challenges to you, is to use this time you have together to start building relationships and think about each other as people who you may know for the rest of your lives, for the rest of your professional lives, maybe for the rest of your personal lives. You may work together in the future. You may run across each other in the future. You may collaborate on papers. You may collaborate on projects in the future. So start to think about each other as people with whom you can have a really remarkable professional, long-term, lasting, deep, rich relationship, so that 10, 15 years from now, you run into each other and you go, oh, remember when we met back at Beaverworks, because you'll have that in common. And that'll be true for many of you. So how do we do all that relationship building? Well, it requires lots of talking. So we're going to talk about talking and what it requires to have talking be effective and useful. But you say, we're remote. We're working remotely. So we can't do the kind of talking that we could do if we were all sitting in the same place and eating lunch together and playing ping pong and going for walks and all that stuff that we do together. So how do we communicate best when we're remote? Nobody really knows. We're just starting to research it. I'm going to give you at the end of the talk a summary of an article that was recently put out by the Sloan School at MIT that looked at the research about remote teams and came up with some best practices. We'll cover that at the end. But one of the things to pay a lot of attention to is that when we're in the same place, when we're in the same room, we not only can see each other in this little square of video that we have here, but we have a huge amount of nonverbal information that we get from each other that's the basis of forming our relationships. We learn about each other from how we smile, how much we smile, what direction we smile in, how long our smiles last, what are these things called? Eyebrows do, what our faces do, where we sit, how we walk. All of that information is information about who other people are that we learn the richness of our relationships from. And we don't have that when we're working remotely. So first I'm going to talk you through some theory about communication in general. And then at the end, we'll get to some tips about how to use this remote experience as best you can so that you're building your teams even while you're not sitting in the same city, town, building room together.
David Lee raised his hand. You want to see if David, do you want to unmute and see what your question is, David?
Sure. Thank you, Joe.
Oh, oh, I forgot to lower my hand. I don't have a question.
All right, then.
Okay. All right. Good. Thank you, Joel. I can't see the raised hand, so I really appreciate your keeping track of them. And if you do have questions, please pop in and interrupt. They're rich. Okay, so now, warning. Some of you are going to love the stuff of this talk, and so the invitation to you is to keep working with it, to learn to be an even better teammate than you already are, to learn as much as you can about how to support your team. Some of you are not going to love this stuff. You may be bored. You may be rolling your eyes. All of that is fine. I teach at MIT. I'm used to that. A lot of MIT students, this is not their stuff. Their stuff is the technical stuff. But I'm going to urge you to do your best with it, to stretch yourself, to get into it as much as you can, because you will always be working on teams and there will always be people on teams. And so improving your people skills is worth doing to whatever level you can bring yourself to it. If you don't love this stuff, don't worry about it, but you might want to pay some attention to appreciating those people that you work with who are the relationship-oriented people, because there's a place for that on every team. All right, so everybody brings something different. Now we're going to go through a few points about communication in general, and the first one is that here we are and we're people and we have minds, and our minds work automatically. Our minds speak to us constantly and automatically. So if you would, get out that piece of paper that I asked you to have and something to write with, and I'm about to give you an instruction and a little minute to do something that's going to be the keys to the kingdom, in a way, of communicating. So everybody have a piece of paper and something to write with? So here comes the instruction. I'm going to give you 60 seconds. Draw a picture that somehow represents you. You're ready? 1, 2, 3, go. You have 60 seconds. Draw a picture that somehow represents you.
I drew mine with my hair on fire.
Good one. Twenty more seconds. 10 more seconds. And everybody stop drawing and put your pencils down, or pens, or whatever you're drawing with. Put them down. Okay, now, do you have to show people your picture? No, but you may if you want to, but in a little bit. We're going to talk about it first, because here's what's important about this. Because this moment is a key to this class. It's a key to working with people. It's a key to communication. Here's my question to you. I said one pretty simple thing, and I said the same thing to everybody. I said, draw a picture that somehow represents you. When I said that, what happened for you? What did that cause in you? Now, there's 150 of you, so I'm going to do this in a kind of a group-like way. But I've done it with a lot of classes, so here's what I'm going to suggest. How many of you, when I said that, had the reaction, oh boy, we get to draw something, yippee? How many of you had that? Show of hands. Oh, I see a couple of you. Let me scroll through a little more. I see some, oh boy, drawing people, good. How many of you had the reaction, oh no, do we have to draw? Really? Oh, that's my favorite group. Oh, I see a couple of you brave souls. Yeah, oh, I don't want to draw. How many of you went, oh no, we have to draw. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I see a couple of you. It's very funny to do this quietly. When we do it in a room full of people and I say, draw a picture, half the room goes, you can hear it. So we have some, oh no, nervous people about drawing. How many of you were just kind of confused? Like, huh? What? Drawing? What? What are we doing? What? What's going on? Oh, some confusion. All right, I see some confusion. Okay, good. So what? And I said here, use the chat window to say which reaction. Why don't you just take a minute in the chat window. I'm going to use the chat window this way. I've never done this with 150 some students, so I don't know if it's going to be a big fat mess. But just take a minute and write in the chat window, what was your reaction? In just 3 or 4 words. When I said, draw a picture that represents you. And it could be one of these 4, it could be something else. Extreme panic, brain turned to mush, frozen, yay, icy teeth, oh, huh, what? Neutral, oh my God, brew, okay. This is good. It's very funny to see them scroll by so fast. Panic, icy teeth, oh my gosh. Excited about drawing, there we go, I'm seeing red. Okay, all right. You guys keep writing. If you're still writing, I'm going to go ahead. So what's the point? Why does this matter? So let's think about what happened for a minute. I said something pretty bland, draw a picture that represents you. Not a lot of controversy in that statement. And notice the following things. You guys had multiple reactions. You didn't all have the same reaction. You had different reactions, right? But you didn't have 150 different reactions. You had groups of reactions. You had 4, maybe 5, 6 categories of reactions. So not everybody the same, but not everybody totally different. Secondly, your reaction was instant, right? The minute I said that, your reaction went bam, like that. It just came to you instantly and automatically. You didn't stop and think, I'm gonna guess. Maybe a couple of you did, but most of you didn't go, oh, draw a picture. I wonder how I should think about that. Should I be excited about that? Maybe I should be scared about that. Oh, I think I'll get mad about that. You didn't do that, right? You just reacted with one of those reactions, whichever one it was. And also notice that none of those reactions is the truth about how you should feel about drawing a picture, right? Drawing a picture is drawing a picture. What's true about it is whatever your experience was. So now here's the question. Why does that whole cluster of stuff matter when you're collaborating with people? Why is it important to be aware of and think about that when you're working with people? Take a minute and write in the chat box if you have some thoughts about that. Why are these automatic reactions so important? How do you think they might affect your teamwork? Take a minute and write it briefly in the chat. How does it affect your teamwork? There we go. Yep. First impressions, yep. Intuitions, impulsivity, yep. Change your attitude about people, can be rude. Yep, good. Good, determines how you'll connect. Yep. My daughter's off to college next year, and she used to say, Mom, I'm so worried. People are going to judge me. What if people are going to judge me? And I say, you don't have to worry about that. People are going to judge you. It's what we do. It's what our minds do. They kick out judgments all the time. So what do we do about that? Given that, how do we collaborate effectively? Now, as a note, if you want to share your picture, you'll be able to in one of the breakout rooms coming up. You don't have to, but if you want to. I know some people make these wonderful pictures that they're really proud of. So we judge each other, we make assumptions, we're often wrong, we limit our understanding of each other, we shut people out with these automatic reactions. Sometimes we give people too much credit. Oh, there's Declan, he looks really smart. Let's let him do all the work, ha ha ha, right? Declan's smiling, okay, I know I can pick on you a little bit. And we miss people's good ideas by having these automatic reactions. So, a man that I once studied with, he was a meditation teacher. I would expect that some of you, I'm not going to ask for a show of hands, I would expect that at least some of you have a meditation practice. If you don't, you might want to look into it and consider it, because one of the things it's good for is if you can catch those automatic thoughts that your mind kicks out between what this teacher said to me was between the spark when they occur and the flame when you act on them. So between the moment you think, oh, that was a stupid thing to do, and the acting on it, where you can pause for an instant and consider if there might be a response that would serve you better, that would be more useful to you. And that's the kind of thing that a meditation practice trains your mind to do, to slow down the automaticity of those responses and reactions. But even without a meditation practice, you can still learn to notice, oh, I just formed a judgment of that person and it wasn't based on enough. I don't know enough. Let me find out more. Let me get in there and be curious about who this person is and set aside my automatic reaction because it may not be correct and it's probably not complete, all right? So that's the automaticity of our minds. That's in the background of all of this stuff. Now, a second essential chunk of working collaboratively is that trust is the foundation of effective collaborative work. So again, I'm going to imagine that many of you have been on teams where people trusted each other. And that made a lot possible. But the question to consider is what happens on a team where there isn't a lot of trust, there isn't enough trust. What's that like? And the key thing that people say is what you can't do if people trust each other is you can't take risks. You can't get creative. Why? Because if you make a mistake, you don't know if you're going to get in trouble for it or forgiven for it, if there's not a lot of trust. So trust is the foundation for keeping teams working effectively, taking risks, being creative, stretching yourselves, and knowing that at the end of the day, you're going to be able to sustain your relationships. So if trust is the foundation, how do we build trust? Get this stuff out of the way. Put my wolves up. Aren't they great? So I'll tell you the story of the wolves and trust. Many years ago, I took a class with a man named Gregory Bateson, who was a polymath. He was a genius in 6 different fields. He was an anthropologist. He was a naturalist. He was a psychiatrist. And he was a systems theorist. He worked at MIT with Norbert Wiener, figuring out cybernetics. He wrote a book called Steps to an Ecology of the Mind, which was kind of the first book about ecology and the environment and systems thinking with respect to the environment. He's an amazing man. So Gregory was up in the Arctic studying wolves at one point in his life, and he saw these packs of wolves from time to time. They would come trotting toward each other across the tundra. Let me put my pictures over here. They come trotting toward each other across the tundra, and at some point, they would either attack each other to kill each other, or they would roll in the snow and play. And he asked himself the question, how do they communicate the difference between I am going to kill you and hey, let's play? How do you tell the difference? And here's what he observed. And huge lessons can be drawn from this. So here's what he observed. What he observed is the wolves would come barreling toward each other, and at some point in their approach, one of the wolves would let his jugular be a little bit exposed. He'd be a little bit vulnerable, as if to say, what are you going to do with this? Are you going to attack me? And if the other wolf attacked, then they'd have a war. But just as often, the other wolf would go, no, I'm not going to attack you, let's play. And they would all play. So there's the approach, there's the exposure, the vulnerability, and then there's the choice. Are we going to play or are we going to fight? And what he put together is that transaction is the essence of building trust. That transaction is what trust is made out of. So it's a two-part thing. You expose a little vulnerability, and then you wait to see if it's exploited, if it's abused. And if it's not, you've built a little trust. And if it is, you've destroyed a little trust, or maybe more than a little trust. So that's the transaction. Another version of it, you ask a question and you see how it gets answered. Because a question is a little bit of a vulnerability, right? So now you're working on your teams. What are some other things you could do in ordinary life on your teams to expose a little bit of vulnerability? Type them in the chat. What do you think? What do you do on your teams that sets up a little bit of vulnerability? Propose an idea, ask for help. Yes, share something personal, asking for help, ask questions. Open up about weaknesses. You guys are nailing it. Yep, absolutely, ask for help. Talk about your day, good and bad. Share something personal. Admit mistakes, excellent, excellent, excellent. Request advice or criticism, terrific, yes, good. Smile, yeah, even smiling, yeah. So make yourself a little vulnerable. So important to notice that asking for help or saying, I'm not sure about this, or admitting that you screwed something up, not only is it going to be good for you in that you're going to get some help probably, but it's good for your team because it helps make it safe for everybody. Everybody gets to build trust when somebody's willing to step out and be a little bit vulnerable. You see how that works? Now, here's another wrinkle. I was giving this talk some years ago at a conference, and I made this point, and a man in the audience raised his hand, and I called on him, and he stood up, and it was Jeff Hoffman, who was a professor in aeroastro at MIT, who was an astronaut. He was on the astronaut crew that repaired the Hubble Space Telescope. And he stood up and he said very authoritatively, I was an astronaut, and that's not how we built trust. At which point I thought, oh dear, my life is over. What have I done? I was a little shaken up by that. But I said to him, well, how did you build trust, you astronauts? And he said, well, what we did is we would make a commitment to do something, and then we would do it. We would demonstrate that we were reliable. And we thought about it for a minute, and we realized that that is the same transaction. Do you see it? Because when I make a commitment to Jessica, and I say, Jessica, I'm going to have 5 of these done by 10 o'clock tonight. You can count on me. What position have I just put Jessica in? You see it? I've just made her a little bit vulnerable because now she's depending on me to deliver these. And either I'm going to deliver them or I'm going to let her down. So you make a commitment and you keep it. And thereby you build a little trust, but it's the same transaction. Now, next question. I say I'm going to get 5 of these done by 10 o'clock at night, and it's 6 o'clock at night, and the upstairs neighbor's bathtub overflows and my ceiling collapses. Oh my gosh, right? Stuff happens in life. So now what do? Have I destroyed any possibility of creating trust with Jessica? I told her I'd have 5 done by 10 o'clock. My laptop is buried under a pile of muddy plaster. What do? How do I not destroy our relationship? Well, I communicate, because stuff happens, and it happens to everybody, and it happens all the time. So I promise I'll get this done by this time. Something gets in the way. It's inevitable that it's going to happen. I do my best, but I call her up and I say, Jessica, I said I'd have 5 by 10. My neighbor's ceiling just collapsed. I'm so sorry. I'm sure I can get 2 of them done by 10. If I get the other 3 to you by 2 in the morning, would that be okay? And then Jessica can say, sure, that'd be fine. Or she can say, don't worry about it. You can deliver them in the morning, or we can negotiate back and forth and work something out. You see how that works? So trust is this interaction, it's this transaction that involves vulnerability and exploit or not exploit. And every little time you do that, you make it safer on your team. Every time you make a commitment and keep it, every time you make a commitment and communicate when you can't keep it, and keep it cleaned up, you build trust on your team. And trust is the floor for being able to have adventures with your team and take risks with your team. You see how that works? Anybody have any questions about that? Pop them into the chat. I'll keep an eye on it. Yeah, be casual. Treat others the way you want to be treated. Good. You guys are doing some good thinking out there. No questions? Okay. If you have any, feel free to add them in. Is this the main reason why team building games ask personal questions? That's a really good question. I'm not sure if it is explicitly, if team building games are thinking, well, let's build some trust. Probably they are. They may not understand that whole business about the transaction, but yeah, probably one of the reasons when you do team building stuff, it involves letting yourself be personal, letting yourself be exposed a little bit, letting people get to know you in a way that makes you a little bit vulnerable. Probably it does, yep. And the interesting thing is, it's something you can always do. If you're on a team and you're feeling tension and you're feeling like people aren't altogether comfortable with each other, you can have an effect on it by asking for help, by asking a question, by admitting a mistake, all those things you listed. Even if you don't really meet, you can ask it in order to make it safer for people. That make sense? So let's go on. Think about something that you really care about, something you're willing to share, not something private. Remember, we're going to be sharing stuff, but think about something you really care about, or a dream or a hope that you have. It could be about your family. It could be about your work, about your school, about some project that you have, about some hobby you have, or sports. It could be anything, but just something you really care about that matters to you and that you're willing to share about. And when you have it in mind, I'm going to put you in breakout rooms. So we're going to do a little example of team building by talking personally. I'm going to put you in breakout rooms. Introduce yourself. I broke the rooms out, if this works. I was on the phone for hours with IS&T because the breakout room function broke on my Zoom. So I still don't totally trust it, but I think I have it working. I'm going to put you in breakout rooms of 5 or 6 with people working on your project. They won't be your actual work teams necessarily. I just did it alphabetically, but people working on your project. Introduce yourselves briefly if you haven't already, and then take a minute or so each and share with each other the thing that you care about, your hope or your dream. And that's one job. The other job is listen deeply to each other. The listening is just as important as the speaking. So I want you to explore what it means to listen deeply to somebody else, to listen with curiosity, to listen with the intention of appreciating who that person is. I want you to bring yourself to their speaking with everything you got and see what you learn, all right? So go around, take a minute each to share your hope or your dream, and then thank each other for sharing. And I'll call you back in probably something like 6 or 7 minutes. All right, now I have to find breakout rooms and put you in them. Cross your fingers that this works. And I'm not seeing breakout rooms. Do I have to stop sharing my screen maybe? Ah, there you are. Okay. And I want to open all rooms. And it's not giving me that option. Joel, do you see anything I'm not seeing here?
No, as co-host, I don't have breakout rooms that show on me, that show for me.
Oh, add a room, recreate, recover to pre-assigned rooms. Okay, cross your fingers. Let's see if this works. Open all rooms and away you go.
Looks like it's going.
Almost all of you. 59 unassigned. How can that be?
You want to put them in random breakout rooms, Jane?
Yeah, do you know how to do that? I had assigned everybody out. Let's see, join. Okay, I'm stumped. I'm not sure what to do.
Can we chat with the kids here in May until the meeting
Yeah.
break?
Yeah.
It's like
How many
cognitive
people-
and serious games are the two classes that didn't get assigned. So
That's so weird. I put everybody in the same way. All right, so how shall we do this? Who would like, well, let's just do it with a couple of people. Who would like to share with whoever is left with us here? There's a bunch of you left. Who would like to share a hope or a dream or something you really care about with a bunch of strangers? Take a risk.
raise your blue hand and we'll unmute you, or just we can see if we can just unmute and go for it.
Anybody?
Hello? Is my audio working?
Yes.
All right. Something I just like, something small, kind of important to me that I like to tell people about.
Good.
One of my, as is with everyone, I sometimes get stressed, have hard times. Whenever that happens, I just like to go into the bathroom and sing.
Sing?
Yeah, I really just like the voice echoing around the bathroom, just singing. Just musicals, like I know Vivian likes Rent, so I sing some from that. Like just, yeah, I like singing songs, and that's calms me down, and it's really helpful for me, I guess.
Wow, that's lovely. Thank you, Junha. That's beautiful. So now, those of you listening, do you notice the effect it has on you when somebody shares like that? Just a sweet, meaningful thing that they do when they're stressed. A little bit vulnerable, right? A little bit of a risk to share that. But it opens us up to who Junha is, which opens us up to who we are, which makes it safer for everybody. Thank you, Junha. Who else? There are many of you. Who else would like to share one?
I guess I could go.
Good.
I'm Rachna. Something I really care about right now is I really want to make the most of a time I have at home. I just found out like last week that we're not going to be in person for the entirety of my senior year. So
Yeah.
I decided to make like a bucket list of things I want to do while I'm at home. So I've been like doing this. I've been learning to ride a bike for the first time because I never did that. And just like a bunch of other things that I've been putting off because I simply never had time before.
Oh, that's awesome.
Oh, and by the way, earlier you mentioned Aurora. I go to school in Aurora in Illinois Math and Science Academy.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Oh, that's great. Rasha, thank you for that. That's really lovely. Good luck with your bucket list.
Thank you.
Do as many as you can, and then don't beat yourself up for the ones you miss. Do as many as you can and love them to pieces. How great. Who else?
Can I go?
Yeah, who are you? Where are you?
I'm Sadiq.
Ah, there you are. Hi, Sadi.
Yeah. So I suppose I'd like to be a role model figure in whatever communities I find myself in, right? Like, one thing I value a lot is patience with other people.
Uh-huh.
And I suppose I'd like to be the person that people are able to look up to. And, that's something that I have to work on myself. So, yeah.
Wow. Thank you. Just richness of sharing. Really nice. And one of the things that happens when you say something like that is people around you want to contribute. You know, one of the funniest statistics I ever heard is if you ask people, how many of you like to be helped? You ask 100 people, maybe 2 people will say, yeah, I love to be helped. But you ask people, how many of you love to help other people? Most people's hands go up. So there's a real imbalance in the world of people wanting to help and people needing help. So we all need to ask for help more often. Gives everybody else something to do. Who else? Take a couple more.
Can I share my drawing?
Yes.
So this reminded me of when my US history teacher was like, draw the Articles of Confederation or whatever. And I always took the assignment more figuratively. So this is my drawing.
We'll hold it up close. Oh, that's awesome.
So
tell us about it.
I had a spiky feeling about myself, so that hence the spikes. And then I was like, wow, that kind of looks like hair. And then I was like, oh, I use this emoji a lot, so I'll put this on here. I don't know why I put the +1s there. I think I was thinking of like, we had this lecture about rewards and stuff this morning, so I was thinking about that. And yeah, that's
awesome. Anybody else want to share a picture? Thank you, Vivian. Anybody else want to share your picture?
I would like to.
Who's that?
Alex.
Hi, Alex.
I didn't include a last name.
Okay.
Because,
Go for it.
Oh well. So, I did this on MS Paint. Then I took a photo of it, and now I'm showing it, so it's gonna be slightly scuffed. But
oh wow.
Also it's flipped, but don't worry about that. So as you can see, that's very accurate depiction of what I look like. There's a B on the side, and text that flips says me and then the best. And obviously I have my headphones on.
Good. With headphones, I love it. Very good, very accurate. We could pick you out in a crowd. Wonderful. Who else? I love these drawings. Who else?
Yeah.
Somebody else?
I'll share mine then.
Great.
It's just, I'll just close the virtual background.
Okay.
A little closer. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, this is just a quick doodle.
Wow. You did that in 60 seconds?
Mm-hmm.
Holy moly. That's beautiful. Tell us about it.
Well, it describes one of my traits that I have, which is caring.
Yeah. Beautiful. That's really beautiful. One more? Anybody burning? I'll show you mine while somebody thinks if they want to go next. This is mine. Is it flipped? It's a question mark. And it's a question mark because that's the only thing I can reliably draw. And because I really love questions. Questions are just fun and exciting and open things up. And I can draw one. So, one more out there? Anybody?
Can I go?
Sure.
So I really, really, really like alpacas. Don't ask me why. I just, they're fluffy, they're cute, they can spit in your face, but they don't do it because they're nice, they're fluffy, you can use their fur, etc. So I drew, it's not a bear, it's an alpaca.
It's an alpaca, definitely.
I just really like alpacas. And then there's just a lot of different stuff around because when I was given this prompt, I started panicking and I was like, so this is kind of like my thought process. Like there's hearts and then there's like little plus signs and X's and like there's books, there's really badly drawn flowers. Yeah, and I like alpacas so much. I have like 6 alpaca stuffies, an alpaca pencil case, an alpaca phone case.
Do you
And
know any-
actually, I bonded with somebody from Cogworks over our love of alpacas, me and Santa. Like the first day we were on Discord, she sent a picture of an alpaca.
Wow,
I've texted ever since.
that's awesome. Do you know any alpacas personally?
Not by name.
Oh. We have 2 alpaca farms near where I live, and my daughter took care of them one summer. They're wonderful animals. They're a good pick. Oh, you guys, that was fun. So I'm gonna see if I can get the breakout rooms to come back. Hi, Lisa. Breakout rooms, okay, close all rooms. 60 seconds. So in 60 seconds, everybody else will be back. And I'm sorry everybody didn't get a chance to talk. I really want a breakout room so that everybody could talk, and I don't know why they don't work. I spent hours on the phone with IS&T trying to figure it out, and we thought we had it, but we didn't. So everybody else is going to be joining us.
Yeah, that was one of the reasons why we kept sending out links, new links to the meeting, is we had to keep trying when the breakout room attempts failed. So
yeah.
I wonder if the name's not spelled exactly right. Will they not go?
But I put them all in the same. The first 15 or so teams went fine.
No, but somehow they log in and like Alex was just Alex. So it wouldn't, if you had Alex and his last name, maybe it wouldn't know to put him in
No,
the right room.
but it should be by email, and it should know people's emails. I mean, that would be silly if it worked like that. You know what I mean? Because you don't know what people are going to log in as. I don't know.
Well,
Nobody
I
could
bet
figure
you
it
then
out.
the other problem could be they used a different email because they have their MIT emails and they also have their personal ones.
That's true, but still, the whole first batch worked and the whole second batch didn't. So it was something in the Zoom programming glitched.
okay.
Can't figure it out. Anyway, we'll roll with the punches, which is one of the things you need to do when you work on a team, because nothing ever works right? Murphy's Law lives. So is everybody back? Yeah, it looks like, is everybody back? Yes. So where am I? Oops, where are my slides? Oops. Okay, so take a minute. Now, I'm confused about where you are and where I am. Here we go. All right, take a minute and put something in the chat room. So we're going to collect these because there's always just so much to learn from you guys when you do this. Take a minute and put something in the chat room about what you learned from that conversation that you have. What did you learn about collaboration and communication? Just take a few minutes. Oh, here we come. Yikes. People are supportive of people sharing. It's important to express your own feelings, but also listen to others. Sometimes you just have to sense the vibes and move to the jive. Yep, that's how we know each other, is by sensing. Doesn't happen from thinking, it happens from sensing. And the first step is important, but it's not the end of things. You can make a terrible first impression and recover from it. Someone has to step up. Yep. Sometimes you have to be brave to initiate. And part of what we want for you guys is to learn that courage, to use this time together to be the brave one once or twice, if that's not usually the way that you are. I was alone in my breakout room. I'm so sorry, Ji-yoon. The breakout rooms were a mess. All right, sorry. It can be awkward. It's important, supportive structure. People are just as panicked as you are. Yep. A lot of openness and trust if you speak up. So this is a life lesson, everybody, to take with you really forever, that you have the power to open things up for people and make it safe for people. By sharing what matters to you, by being a little vulnerable, by asking for help, by opening it up a little. That's a huge life lesson. Good work, everybody. Now, let me see how we're doing with time. I'm so sorry about the breakout rooms. Okay. Third point about teams, third chunk of communication theory. big research project was done by MIT and the University of Chicago. And what they were trying to figure out is, are there characteristics that make some teams smarter than other teams in the same way that IQ represents how some individuals are smarter, in other words, able to solve more kinds of problems than other people. So they took 650 people, they divided them up into groups of 5 or 6, I think. And then they gave each individual all battery of tests. They gave them IQ tests, they gave them personality tests, they gave them leadership tests. They gave them a test called reading the mind in the eyes, where you see a black and white photograph just of somebody's eyes, and you have to determine what emotion the person is feeling just from the photograph of their eyes. And they gave them probably Myers-Briggs and everything else. They gave them every test they could think of. So they had a huge amount of data on this 650 some people, put them in groups and gave them 10 different kinds of problems. So there was a math problem, there was a geometry problem, there was a people problem, there was an art problem, there was 10 different kinds of problems. They said 1, 2, 3, go. And then they called a halt and they looked at which groups performed well across all 10 kinds of problems. Now, some groups were super extraordinarily effective on 1 or 2 of the problems, but kind of bombed on the other ones. So they just looked at the groups that were smart across all 10. And they found 3 characteristics shared among those groups. And ordinarily, I would ask you to take a guess, but there's so many of you. I'm just going to tell you what people get. When people guess, they say, was it the highest average IQ? No, it was not. Was it the group with the most technical background? No, it was not. Was it the group with the best leader? No, it was not. It was 3 things. Am I sharing my screen? No, I am not. Here we go. Here's my screen. It was 3 things. The first thing is the most successful groups were groups where teammates paid attention to each other. So it was the groups that had the highest score on that reading the mind in the eyes. So they were sensitive to how their teammates were feeling. And they looked out for each other and they took care of each other. That was the first thing. Second thing, all the individuals were wearing a gizmo that was invented by Sandy Pentland, who's at the Media Lab at MIT, that tracks how often and for how long people talk. And the second characteristic of smart teams was that each person on the team spoke about the same amount. They didn't track what they said, they just tracked how much people participated. So where all the teammates took turns speaking up and everybody spoke up, those were the teams that did the best. The third characteristic, I didn't put it on the slide for kind of a funny reason. Third characteristic was teams that had the highest proportion of women. Yay. Girls can be smiling out there. And I don't put it on the slide because when I first talked about this study, I was in a robotics class, and after the class, the bunch of women in the class came charging down to talk to me, and they said, don't say it's about women on the team. I want to be on a team because I'm a good engineer, not because I'm a woman. So I stopped putting it on the slide. And it's self-evident that women tend to be socialized more, to be sensitive to each other and to take turns. That's the way women are commonly raised. So that kind of makes some sense. But those 2 characteristics are characteristics that we can all pay attention to. And so one of my challenges to you is to think about where you are on this, let me get this out of the way, where you are on this continuum of speaking and listening in groups. So some of you tend to be talkative, you tend to take the lead, you tend to do the talking. Those of you who are in that camp can probably benefit from learning to listen more and talk less. And on the other end of the scale, some of you are quiet and you sit back and you listen, and you could benefit and your teams could benefit from your learning to speak up more. So this conversation about who needs to speak up more, who needs to tone it down, is another really good conversation to have with your teammates so that you know where you stand, you know what you want to work on, you know how you can support each other. And some of you are probably right in the middle. You talk, sometimes you're quiet, sometimes you're pretty balanced like that. So take a minute and in the chat, put the number that you think you're at. highly scientific. It's just your impression of yourself. Just write the number that you think you at. Let's see. Oh, interesting. I see a lot of 2s. I see a pi. Good. Bunch of 4s. Depends on the team. Yep. It may well depend on the team. Yep. A lot of 3s. Good. It's another pi. I adapt to what others do. Good. So as you work in your teams, those of you for whom paying attention to this kind of thing is interesting or comes easily, pay attention to it and remind your teammates. Let's make sure everybody's had a chance to talk. One of the key functions of the relationship monitor on a team can be really important, just to remind your teammates, let everybody have a chance. Good. Next one, celebrate mistakes. Crucial on an effective team that you get comfortable and happy with making mistakes. Why? Because mistakes are when you learn. If you never make mistakes, you can venture to say, you're not risking enough, you're not trying enough. Celebrate mistakes. And I always say, if you're going to make mistakes, make a big one so you have a good story to tell about it. This is my personal favorite make mistakes photograph. It makes me laugh every time I see it. Because mistakes are for learning. So if you make a mistake, make a mistake. If you've built trust on your team, you will be helped and forgiven. And if you fail, you recover and you ask for help when you need it. Mistakes are in that continuum of vulnerability and risk and learning to build trust. So allow for mistakes, welcome mistakes, celebrate mistakes. One of my classes once, we had an every semester, we had a prize for the best mistake. And it was so much fun. It was one of the most fun days of the class because everybody got to report on the dumb thing they did. And we had a party. So now I want you to, how are we going to do this? I guess we'll do it the same way, given that some of the breakout rooms didn't work. And I will try and rescue the person who said that their breakout room, they were in it by themselves, which is not good. I'm so sorry about that. So think of a fear, worry, or concern that you have about this class. Send you to your breakout rooms, take a minute each to share about it, listen to each other, and then, you know what, we're close to the end of time. Let's do it all together. Let's do it all together. Take something that you're concerned about or worried about. We'll listen to a few of you all together. And then when you get with your teams, have this conversation with your teams. It's a really wonderful one, especially in conjunction with the one about your hopes and dreams. So, yeah. So who would like to share a fear or a worry or a concern that you have about this class? Step out. For whom would it be a really brave, bold thing?
Avik has got his hand raised. Go ahead, Avik.
I guess fear or worry that I have is possibly the workload and maybe the stress associated with that towards the final event.
Yeah. And what is it that worries you?
Like specifically about the workload?
Yeah.
Mainly, I guess just, I mean, as I said, like the stress aspect of it, and maybe, I guess, just the time that I have to put in, maybe.
What are you afraid might happen?
I don't know, like, obviously all of this is very exciting and very interesting, but I don't know, I feel like if it's too much, there could be like certain consequences, possibly with, I don't know, maybe not having enough time to do other things or, you know, stuff like that.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
I'm sorry, I have to interrupt, but I'm having the instructors, I've had 2 instructors call me already looking for their students.
Oh, so we have to wrap up?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Can I have 2 more minutes?
2 more minutes, yep.
So just to appreciate Avik, raise your hand if you share that concern. How many of you have that concern? The workload at the end is going to be overwhelming. We may not be able to get it done. So Avik, look around. You are not alone. And that's one of the things that you learn when you share your burdens, is that they are shared, that many people will have the same concerns, and that there's always conversations you can have that can make the work go more effectively and efficiently, or can take care of yourself when you're in a stressful situation that can alleviate the stress. You can work on both ends of it. Let me get back to my slides, because I just want to show you where the, am I sharing my screen? Yes, I'm sharing my screen. I want to show you where the summary of this article is that you can go to. So it's right in the chat. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. Hugely important point. When you work remotely, it's incredibly important to schedule some time just to talk to each other, just to hang out, just to build your relationships, just to have a glass of iced tea together, just to play a video game together, just to hang out. You can do that when you're in the same place with each other. It's easy to do. When it's remote, you have to work at it. You have to say, somebody has to say, has our team had some hangout time this week, and make sure that it happens. So again, those of you who are good at remembering how your teams are doing, take this on as one of your jobs. What do you need to do to make a great team? You need to participate, get to know each other, ask for help, build trust, experiment, make mistakes, ask questions, observe, be curious, have fun. All of that stuff helps. And now here are some tips and tools. If you're somebody who's good at implementing team processes, if you're somebody who's good at managing your team to, for example, let's set up some fun time to do something fun together, tell us in the chat window if that's something that you'd like to take on with your team. Identify that about yourself. And it could be that you know you're good at it, and it could be that you think you may not be good at it, but you want to get better at it. You want to take that on as one of the things you learn in this class. Put that in the chat window. I'd like to take on managing my team. And if you are one of those people, pay some attention to these last few pages. Here is a beautiful tool for continuous team learning. At the end of every team meeting, take 3 or 5 minutes to debrief what worked and what could we improve. Every meeting, you should be able to learn from your previous meetings, from what worked and what didn't work, and improve your team process. And then finally, 5 ways to improve communication in virtual teams. I won't go through the whole slides, but just the headlines of them. And this is from the Sloan Management Review. The business school at MIT has done research on what's working for remote teams. First, match the technology to the task. Second, make your intentions clear. Third, stay connected to your teammates. Make sure everyone is included, nobody disappears. Fourth, be responsive and supportive of each other. And fifth, be open and inclusive. So if you go through the details of those, there's rich material in there for helping your team stay afloat, even when we're at a distance like this. Here's a beautiful proverb to remind yourself of. You can go fast if you go alone, but if you want to go far, go with others. Here is my email. I'll post these slides. Ping me if you have questions or if something exciting happens. Let me know how you're doing. I wish you all the best. Really good luck in your projects. Have fun. Take care of each other. Enjoy the week together. And we'll all learn a lot. I look forward to hearing from you again. Goodbye for now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I know I hit cloud record, Jane, so that file should probably be accessible under your account.
Okay, thank you.
I may not have access to it, but it should be available under your account. And then I've got the chat window saved up as well too, just in case. So
Fabulous. Oh, good. Yeah, I can't wait to read what's in the chat.
yeah.
And I'll get back on the phone with the help desk and see if they can figure out what happened to the breakout rooms.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You guys did a beautiful job. Thanks everybody for coming and sharing.
Thank you, Jane.
You're welcome.
So students, I don't know if you've got classes left to go back to, but or if you've got a couple of short questions for Jane, go ahead.
Questions? I'm happy to take questions.
All trickling back to their class.
So Joel, can we meet up later and debrief?
Yeah.
When you have some time?
I'm fairly flexible.
I'll ping you probably tomorrow.
Yeah. Josh, did you have a question? Or should we be going to your class? There we go.
He's gone. Everybody's gone.
Oh, he's talking to me.
Can I just say, are we still recording?
I'm
I'm going to stop recording.